So before we jump in, I wanted to start by just going over our the next couple of months, the summer schedule, so just if you want to take a picture of this, that might be a good idea, just to put on your radar. The main week that we're off is obviously the 3rd. So during that July 4th week, make note of that. We won't be having circles the 3rd. And then today we're in our budget and goal workshop. And then for the next couple of weeks, we'll have match circles. We're going to do a breakout on the 12th. And that's basically a time where circle leaders will go into one room, allies will go into another room. We'll spend some time kind of, dialoguing together, reflecting on how things have been going, supporting each other, encouraging each other, that kind of thing. And then after that, we're gonna have resumes and LinkedIn workshop. This is something that we started doing with the last cohort, but basically we want to give you guys some assets and some skills and some resources to, regardless of what you plan to do with your career or with your employment in the future, we want to help you build some of those assets and some of those skills. And so that's what we'll do that night. We'll have another match circle on June 26th. So take a picture of that. And with that, we're going to jump into this. So originally tonight we were going to have one of our allies from cohort 1 come and share, but we decided to pivot. Felt like we needed to take some time tonight to introduce a couple of tools that we think are helpful and will help you in your match circle, but we didn't want to take up too much time tonight with upfront presenting. We really would like for you to have some time to work with these tonight, so we're going to do that here in a few minutes. The first is the zero-based budget template, which is actually in your binder. Adriana put those in there for you, so that means we need to pass out our binders now. No rush. The second is there's a focus area sheet. In fact, can I get some help passing this out? Just one per table. Thank you. And the focus area sheet will be used so that I can create a goal progress sheet for you. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that is, in a few minutes. Also, tell me if I'm not advancing slides. You should have been looking at that while I was talking for the last 3 minutes. I'm changing slides in 2 places, so we'll see how that goes. Okay. So before we start talking about budgeting, or about a zero-based budget, I want to take a minute to step back and reflect. So when it comes to finances, to budgeting, feelings can easily stop us from taking action or making progress. Our own feelings are very real, but they can really get in the way, right? So I want to hear some feedback here. So when you think about budgeting, when you think about finances, what are some thoughts or feelings that come up for you? Stress, anxiety, okay. Overwhelming. Guilt, all right. What else? Okay, need for accountability, good, yeah. All right. Conflict. A lot of really positive things. Okay, there we go. No, that's good. So why do you think it's important for us in circles to focus on budgeting? Anybody got any ideas? Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Thank you. That's great. There you go. Yeah. It's freedom. Yeah, there you go. It's good. Love it. Okay. Nope. Where did we go? There we go. All right. Yeah, the reason we focus on budgeting in circles is not necessarily because we want you to become hyper-focused on what you spend. So it's not about guilt. But rather, we want you to develop some of these powerful skills that can be quite useful, that can create agency and freedom in your life, right? It's not about perfection. It's about making progress. It's about developing these skills. And I put these three up here. These are what we focus on in circles. So expense tracking, you've been doing that. That's, having specific data, having specific information on what your life costs, right? Like that's a good way to think about it. Planning your spending would be the second one. And then third is increasing resources. So a quick word on expense tracking. If you haven't been doing this consistently yet, that's okay, but I'd really encourage you to start doing that. That's the first step. It's the foundation for you to build towards bigger goals. And this is the mentality I want you to take with expense tracking. So instead of feeling bad, instead of feeling guilty about going out to eat, for example, instead of cooking, the goal would be to track those expenses. Don't feel bad about it. And look at that information at the end and go, okay, that's what it costs for my family to eat. Like that's the number, Of course, there are things that you could decide at some point, like, I think we could do that for less. But to start from that place of just being neutral about it. This is information. You need to know what that information is, right? All right. In the binder, if you want to open that up, have any of you found that zero-based budget template yet? Go ahead and start making your way towards that, because we're gonna spend some time with that in a little bit, and I want you to just kind of look over that while I go through these next couple of slides. So, what is a zero-based budget? Simply put, it's a simple spending plan. It's designed to help you make a plan for every dollar every time you get paid. And it also can help you prioritize your spending. So prioritize your spending by focusing on your basic needs. This is a budgeting process that we learned about in cohort 1. One of our match circles were using it. It's not a new concept. You can find a lot of good resources out there about it, so you're welcome to kind of look into that. And obviously there's also a lot of other tools, apps that you can use for budgeting. We just feel like this is a great place to start, and so that's why we put this one in front of you. Okay. All right. So in the zero-based budget template, you'll notice that your basic needs are labeled 4 walls. And like the 4 walls of a house, these basic needs are what you identify in your budget as non-negotiable. These are the things you need to survive. And you always want to make a plan for these expenses first. You need to eat. You probably need to get to work, so you're going to need transportation. You need shelter, so rent is really important. And depending on your circumstances, you might consider things like healthcare or childcare as part of your 4 walls. If you got young kids, they've got to be taken care of during the day while you're going to work, right? So that may be something that you would include. When your 4 walls are strong, you can move on to other things. On the other hand, if you're spending in other areas first, so maybe even doing something like paying off debt, which is a great thing, but then not having enough left over to pay for rent or gas, then you're in trouble. So the principle here is to build that habit of spending towards your 4 walls first. Cool. And then the template, as you can see, assumes that you have 2 pay periods per month. That can be changed. Not everybody's set up like that. And the idea is that when you get paid, before you spend any of that paycheck, you're sitting down and you're filling out a spending plan, and to the best of your ability, covering those 4 walls first before moving on to other categories in your budget, right? So your budget should end with a balance of 0. At the top, you'll enter in your income when you receive it. You'll work your way down, planning your spending until the next paycheck, and end with 0 for that pay period. And then if you do get paid in 2 pay periods a month, you may notice that one of those pay periods has all the big expenses in it, right? So that's a good question to ask yourself. What do I need to do to plan for that? If rent goes out in the first of the month, right? So what do I need to do to plan for that so that I'm not spending almost my entire paycheck on one thing and then I'm holding on for the next 2 weeks, right? Ultimately, The point of this is to have a plan for every dollar you receive. Okay. So once you feel like you have a good plan for covering those four walls, you can really start working towards that third skill of increasing your resources. A great goal to start with would be building up an emergency fund. And we have one of our cohort 1 circle leaders actually was a great example of this. She worked really hard to build up that emergency fund. And when her truck broke down on the side of the road, she called, and it was a potential crisis, but she had built up that emergency fund and was able to pay for the tow truck, was able to get it fixed. This is our cohort 1 circle leader, Shalitha. So we can celebrate that again, right? But we got to celebrate that, and it's kind of weird to think about that, but that's what an emergency fund is for. And when you have some savings built up and you're able to overcome a barrier like that could otherwise be a pretty disruptive thing, that's something worth celebrating. So from there, you might also want to start working on reducing debt or building up your credit. And then there are also plenty of ways to start working on wealth or asset building by saving for something more long-term, like a down payment, a new car, or even like starting to think about investing, right? So to recap, 3 skills you're building by working on budgeting are expense tracking, which we actually still have those expense tracking sheets, so you can still use those. Planning your spending, and then increasing your resources. Okay, so I want to shift gears and talk briefly about goals. And we passed out the sheets already, so that's good. You have those focus area sheets, so I'm going to have you actually fill those out in just a minute. But so values-driven goals. You guys have probably heard me say that before. What I mean by that, goals that are really connected to what drives you, right? Goals that are not ultimately driven by obligation or stress. It may be the same goal, but it's important to find and connect yourself to what drives you and why that really is important for where you're going in your life and in your future, as opposed to like, well, I should do this because, or I need to overcome this barrier, this thing that's stressing me out. Like if that's all that's really inspiring you or motivating you towards your goals, like that's kind of keeping you in that negative place, as opposed to getting towards like where are you going with your life, like what's really driving you forward. So allies, this is also a great opportunity. If you remember the powerful question sheets that we put in the binders, reference those. Those kinds of questions are really effective at helping to kind of spark thought process that goes deeper, that gets into kind of like what's going on at the core, like what's really connecting me to my values and to what drives me, right? Okay, so as an organization, you've probably heard us talk about this before too. We're working to help you achieve upward mobility, which encompasses these 3 things: social capital and belonging, economic success, and leadership and voice. So when you're goal setting, I want you to also be thinking about this. How are your goals connected to building social capital, to growing your income and your resources, and to growing as a leader in your own life, in circles, and in your community, right? And now that you've had some time to work on SMART goals in your groups, the purpose of this is to help you start to organize those goals and to track your progress. The empty focus area sheet that you have is a space for you to write 3 focus areas. And these will be larger categories that your goals fit in. And like I said earlier, those will be used to create that progress sheet. The goal progress sheet, when I bring that around, which I'll explain a little bit more in a minute, will have these 3 things in it. So focus areas, bigger categories that your goals could fit in, right? They might take a longer time to achieve. So think about like, what are those big dreams? What are those big areas that you've got some goals in that are like, you're thinking like a year out from now, right? And then your goals, like those are your SMART goals, what you've already been working on building. Shorter term, maybe weeks to months. and those fit into one of those 3 focus areas. And then the third thing that'll be on these sheets is tasks. So very short term, and I think most importantly, tasks are those immediately actionable things. So you may have a SMART goal. There's certainly a number of tasks underneath that you're working on to achieve that goal, right? And so we're going to have those 3 layers on that progress sheet, and it'll give you a way to kind of on one sheet keep track of all of that that's going on. It should also help you kind of identify like what you can do, and maybe think about some areas that your allies could specifically help and get involved in your goals. Oh, nope. All right. So, loosely, we're going to start having a rotation that we follow each month, and it'll look something like this. And you'll note that our first week of the month for June is the last week of May, so don't get confused by that. But generally speaking, our rotation is going to be first week of the month, we're going to start doing a budget check-in. What that means is I'm going to come around with a sheet that basically gives you an opportunity to let me know how's budgeting going. It's not a judgment thing. It's not something to feel bad about. It's something that kind of clues us in, like if you need some support, or if there's resources or things that we can do to help, right? Second week of the month, we'll do a goal check-in. Same kind of thing, and I'll be bringing around that goal progress sheet. So we're going to do the first one of the budget check-in next week. We're going to do goal check-in June 5th. And then generally speaking, that third, fourth week of the month, depending on if we're in a 5-week month, will be a training or a workshop, or it might just be a match circle, depending on kind of what we're working on. And then, as you've already seen, at the end of the month, we always do Big View. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to get started with this. So first thing I want you to do is fill out that focus area sheet that we passed out, or that's in your binder. Don't overthink it too much. You can always update it in a couple of weeks. But like I said, I'm going to use that to build that goal progress sheet. And when you're done tonight, we're going to pick up your binders, and we're going to take that focus area sheet along with whatever SMART goals you've created so far. And I'm going to use all that and create that progress sheet for you and bring that back around in a couple of weeks. Once you're done with that, the next thing, to the best of your ability, I'd love for you to start working on filling out the zero-based budget sheet with your group. This is for you to keep, so if you want, we have a digital version, and it's in Google Sheets. So if you've ever used Google Sheets before, if not, we'll show you how to use it. It's got some like formulas built into it that calculates everything for you and makes it a little bit faster. So know that that's an option. But yeah, first fill out that focus area sheet. Do the best you can with that. It's 3 lines, so it should be quick. And then work on that. Spend the rest of the time tonight working on that budget sheet with your group. And then we'll come around. I can answer questions, explain things as we go. But yeah, with that, any quick questions before we jump in? Yes. Okay, sounds good. So Lynette's going to pump us up one more time.
So when I was in college, I was on the track team. Coach Fry, who just retired last year, he had these chants that we would do at our team meetings each week. So I'm going to ask you guys to join in with me here, because TJ just said all the dirty words, and you're feeling all those things that you displayed and talked about at the beginning. So when I say, who can, you're going to say, I can. And you're going to be audible about this. Don't just say it inside your head, okay? So let's try it. Who can? Who can? Who can? Who can? Come on, one more time now. Who can? Okay. Now go forth and conquer.